The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania here at the Ray Hanania Radio Show, Wednesday, July 21, 2021. We have a great lineup of guests and topics this morning, and I want to begin by offering my best wishes to all Muslims on this important holiday this week, the Eid al-Adha. Eid Mubarak, everyone. I hope you have a blessed Eid. And just to let our guests know, I have two guests later that we're going to be talking in about a few minutes that we're going to talk with about the controversy between Egypt and Ethiopia over the grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Ahmed Redi Omer, who is based in Washington, D.C., and also Mohamed Elsetouhi, who is from New York, Bureau of Frontcom LLC. But first, what I want to do is talk with Ali Al-Kanani, who is Kanani, Ali Al-Kanani. Ali, if you want to turn, if you can, maybe you can't, but I wanted to talk to Ali, who is a reporter with Arab News, who will tell us about how the Eid has gone so far and the Hajj in Saudi Arabia. Ali, I hope you can hear me okay. Ali, let's see. Oh, Mohamed Al-Kanani. They have Mohamed. Let's see. We're waiting for Mohamed Al-Kanani to join us by audio. He's on a cell phone. He may be having some problems, possibly. Let's see.
Yes, Ray.
Oh, thank you,
Hi, Ray.
Mohammed. I apologize. You know,
Okay.
I introduced you as Ali Al-Kanani, and I know Ali is a great name, but Mohammed is an even greater name. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
this
Thank you
morning.
very much. It's
And,
no problem at all. Thank you.
No, that's okay. And tell us, first of all, how did the Eid go in Saudi Arabia this week? And Eid Mubarak, by the way, to you also.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ray. Well, everything here in Saudi Arabia, people are celebrating the Eid occasion, happy, and they are rejoicing. And I'm here actually in Mecca.
Yes.
Hmm.
I know it's tough to get cell phone reception there in Mecca. I think we're having cell phone issues. Oh, no. I know that Mohamed Al-Kanani was going to talk to us about how well Saudi Arabia has managed the Hajj, especially in the wake of, this is the second one under coronavirus and COVID. And everything, I understand, went great.
Yes, can you hear me, Ray?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry about
yeah.
that. I know it's tough to get
Okay.
cell phone reception there in Mecca.
Yeah. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay. So everything I heard was really well, you know, in spite of coronavirus. This being the second time, right? Second year that they've had the...
Yeah, the second season.
Tell us about that.
Well, Hajj is always a challenge. And I think the decision of downsizing the number of pilgrims has helped a lot in the success of this year's Hajj.
How many were downsized? I know that they had like 60,000.
Exactly.
And
exactly,
how many normally would you have, do you think? How many would be there normally?
We normally receive from over 2.5 million pilgrims every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can imagine how these numbers of pilgrims gather in one place like Mina, which is nearly 5 kilometers, 5 square kilometers only.
Yes. And last year, did they were they able to have the Hajj last year for the Eid?
Yeah.
And same thing, restricted to the number of attendees?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Wow. Give us a little quick sense and of what it was like this year for the Eid. I mean, what was different about it from a normal Hajj?
Well, people are now celebrating Eid al-Adha with, of course, health measures, social distancing. People prefer to exchange greetings of Eid through WhatsApp messages or just social media.
Yes. Yeah, and I know that if people want to read about the Eid and some of the stories you've written, Mohamed, they can go to arabnews.com. I believe one of the stories you had that, that the Hajj nears, is concluding and that everything has gone well so far. I think that's phenomenal, given all the different things that are going on. Mohamed, I think because of the cell phone thing, I'm going to have to say thank you for joining us, all right?
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Any final thoughts about the Eid?
Well, I'm here in Mecca covering the Hajj event, and I'm staying in my tent most of the time, or going around the tents and meeting pilgrims, officials. And any questions about that?
Yeah. Yes, that's phenomenal. And are people pleased with the way things are going? All right, Mohamed, listen, let me just say thanks to Mohamed Elsetouhi, who joined us from Arab News newspaper. Mohamed is in Mecca, and he's connecting with us by cell phone, giving us a little update on what's happening. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break here at the Ray Hanania Morning Show. And when I come back, we're going to talk with Ahmed Redi Omer, who is based in Washington, D.C. He is the managing director and editor-in-chief at the Ethiopian news agency, Ifriqiyah Media and Communications. And then we'll also be joined by Mohamed Elsetouhi, who is an Egyptian journalist and political analyst from the New York Bureau of Frontcom LLC. Elsetouhi previously worked for Alghad TV and many others. So listen, we'll take a break and we'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Imagine you're on a train track. Somewhere miles away, a train is headed your way. You can't see it yet, but it's coming. Slowly but surely. If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may be on the wrong track, and diabetes could be heading your way. Bit by bit, the danger is getting closer and closer. So should you stay on the track you're on now or move to make a change and reduce your risk? If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may qualify for the National Diabetes Prevention Program in your local community. This one-year program could be the ongoing support you need to put you on the right track. Not only did participants lose weight, they cut their risk of type 2 diabetes in half. Ready to get on board for a healthier future? Learn more about the National Diabetes Prevention Program and what else you can do to manage and prevent diabetes at michigan.gov/diabetes. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
New Dawn Academy provides your kids with a curriculum that's rich in science, technology, engineering, and math.
We want students to really experience what problem solving looks like. What does it mean to build things together? And really working on those analytical skills is what makes New Dawn Academy's program very unique.
This school will certainly provide them with academic excellence, but also state-of-the-art buildings and inviting to students.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19 and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
Welcome back to the Ray Hanania Radio Show. It is Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, and we just did a little segment on the Eid with Mohamed Elsetouhi, who was with us from Mecca, and it was a little tough connection there, but they've done a great job over there with the Eid, this high holiday. Eid Mubarak to all my Muslim friends out there and everybody at the Arab News and my guests. This morning, we're going to be looking at the mounting crisis between Ethiopia and Egypt over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that is significantly, from the Egyptian standpoint, reducing water flow from the Blue Nile, which provides the majority of water to the Nile area that runs through Sudan and Egypt. With us this morning are two journalists, the managing director and editor-in-chief at the Ethiopian news agency, Ifriqiyah Media and Communications, Ahmed Redi Omer. Ahmed, thank you so much for being so patient and joining us. I appreciate it. We also have, or will have, Egyptian journalist and political analyst, Mohamed Elsetouhi, from the New York Bureau of Frontcom LLC. Elsetouhi previously worked for Alghad TV and Nile News Egypt TV. Mohamed, are you there by chance?
Yes, I am
here.
Oh,
good. There you go. And no video? Can you get your video on, or?
It should be just a second.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I can get it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohamed. Let me start with, I'm going to ask both of you, and we can start with Ahmed about this question to present. I'd like to hear from both of you what you each believe is the position.
You disabled the video, by the way. I'm trying to get the video, but it has been disabled here.
Sorry, let me get it. Try it right there for you. Technology, it's not what they promised us, is it? Oh, there you are. Thank you so much. All right, we have Mohamed Elsetouhi there.
Now we can talk.
Now we can talk. It's good. First of all, it's good to have two professional journalists like both of you, Ahmed Redi Omer and Mohamed Elsetouhi, to join us. It's such a big topic. But let me start with Ahmed. Tell us what you believe are the two positions of Egypt and Ethiopia on this dam. How do you see it being presented?
Thank you for having me, Ray Hanania. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, you sound perfect.
All right, thank you. Just to make two quick corrections. One has to do with me. In Ethiopia, we normally go by our first name. My first name is Omer. My last name is Ahmed. So it sounds a bit awkward when I'm addressed by my last name, but normally we go by our first name. So I would appreciate if you just call me Omer Redi.
And Omer, I appreciate that. I had it identified as Ahmed Redi Omer, but Omer, we will get you that way from now on. Thank you.
And also, Ifriqiyah Media and Communications is a communications company, not a news agency. That said, On the announcement on your Facebook, you stated that the dam Ethiopia is building, which is the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is significantly harming Egypt's the flow of water to Egypt. In your introduction, you actually corrected it. You say from an Egyptian standpoint. That is the allegation of the Egyptian side. It's not a fact. So it shouldn't be stated as a matter of fact. As a journalist, I noticed that. Now, the major issue between Egypt and Ethiopia are the Egyptians have a historic hegemony over the Nile River, over the Nile waters. Having the only treaty or agreement that was signed in 1929 and 1951 or 59, I'm not sure. I think it's 1959 between Egypt and Great Britain as a colonizer of Sudan and both Egypt as well. That shares the water between Egypt and Sudan. Now, with Ethiopia coming up with this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Egypt's hegemony is threatened. So basically, Egypt's position is maintaining that water hegemony over the Nile River, not about actual security, water security issues. The Ethiopian position is that the dam would be constructed, would be operational, as per international norms and laws regarding cross-boundary rivers, international rivers, without causing significant harm to downstream countries, which in this case are Sudan and Egypt. Regarding Sudan, the dam actually is beneficial in many ways than one. But the main benefit being that it will address the constant flooding Sudan has been exposed to, especially during the main rainy season in Ethiopia, which is from July, end of June, July, August, towards the beginning of September. So this is a hydroelectric dam. It is going to continue to flow. Ethiopia has done the second round of filling without actually causing any significant harm, without reducing the flow of the water. We know that the second round of the filling is completed and there hasn't been any harm, any reduction in the flow of the water either in Sudan or in Egypt. Otherwise, we would have known. And we'll improve the discussion as we go through the discussion.
And Omar, just to let you know, I did correct the description on Facebook for you. Thank you for pointing that out. It is accurate to say that that's the Egyptian position, that it's harming it. You're basically saying that this is really about who controls the dam or who believes that it should be controlled, and is more of a power political issue than it is about actual water flow then. That's what I sense from what you've just said.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that Egypt has enjoyed for years and years, for decades and decades, without any competition in the sense of using the Nile waters for development purposes by upstream countries, any of the upstream countries. So I understand if Egypt feels a little bit, unhappy about it, but they're blowing it out of proportion to the extent of taking this matter to the UN Security Council. This is a clearly development issue. It's not a security issue, and the UN Security Council did respond to that accordingly, saying it should go back to the African Union. I'm not saying that Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan should not negotiate and discuss on this matter. They should continue. They should agree. I'm not saying that Ethiopia or any other upstream country should be inconsiderate of the concerns of Egypt and Sudan, but they should also be understood that Egypt and Sudan should also understand these countries, upstream countries, not just Ethiopia. There are about 8 upstream countries other than Ethiopia. they have development needs. They need to use the waters of the Nile River with the principle of equitable share and equitable usage without harming the downstream countries.
All right, let me turn to Mohamed Elsetouhi. Mohamed, thank you for being patient. And again, I really appreciate you joining the program also with Omer to talk about this very important issue. How do you view it as, the controversy between Ethiopia and Egypt? Is it about control of the water, or is it a political issue? What's your perspective on it? And how do you view both sides? What do you believe Egypt is trying to do, and what do you believe Ethiopia is trying to do?
Thank you, Ray, for having me on your show, and thanks, Omar, and happy Eid to all.
Thank you.
Actually, listening to our friend Omar, you'd feel like there is nothing there, and we're making a big fuss of nothing. And it is just because Egypt is worried about its hegemony over the Nile and so on. By nature, geography, Egypt is on the receiving end. So we can't in Egypt control the Nile. We can't just receive what we consider to be a fair share or even less than what we need. Egypt is one of the driest countries in the world, if not the driest ever. So for Ethiopia, you can see that they don't have any lack of water. They have like more than 900,000 billion cubic meters. So they have the water, but they are thinking only of the Egyptian share, which is only 55.5 billion. So they're ignoring what could be like 1 trillion cubic meters on their side. They don't really use much of it, would go away. The share of their kettles only of water is more than Egypt and Sudan's share of water. But still, they consider this water coming to Egypt and Sudan as the only source for development that they need to control so they can develop their country. And still, on the Egyptian side, they were flexible. They understood that Ethiopia needs to have their projects. Some of them are mega dams like the GERD. And personally, I think it was a big mistake to allow Ethiopia to start with to have a mega project like this one. If the only purpose is development and develop and have electricity, then you don't need that huge capacity of 74 billion cubic meters. You don't need all of this water for electricity. So to have it like that, it means, and it is clearly designed for control.
And do you think Ethiopia is trying to take control of the Nile?
It's not that I think. What I think, it is a fact, and they are talking now about sharing water, and they are talking about this is our Nile. The Nile and the river has become like a lake, and it is ours. And whatever water, nobody has any right whatsoever in this water. So I'm not just claiming, I'm taking their words. So this dam, mega dam, enables them to achieve what has been always clear to be a geopolitical purpose, which is to control the Nile. Now, what is the point in controlling the Nile other than pushing downstream countries, Sudan and Egypt in particular, because we rely on the Nile for 97% of our needs in Egypt. So you control the Nile, you are destroying the country. It is that simple. So to allow it to happen is a destruction of a whole country of more than 100 million people. So I don't think this should be permitted. And I've been following this issue for so long, and I have no conclusion other than it has to be fixed, and it has to be done and reach a real resolution very quickly, because you can't let go with that for so long.
And obviously, I invited both of you because of your backgrounds, Omer being Ethiopian, Mohamed being Egyptian. And obviously, I know you don't represent the countries that we're talking about, but I think it's fascinating to hear the different perspectives that I don't think we hear in the media. We have, we're on radio, so I have to take a quick radio break here. But when I come back, I want to ask you, do you think that any of the agreements that were signed, were they breached? Were they legitimate? Were they imposed on countries? Can that be repaired? Or do you feel that maybe we're headed toward a war between Egypt and Ethiopia? I'm Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690 Radio in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 Radio in Washington, D.C., broadcasting live on Facebook at facebook.com/Arab News, and also the U.S. Arab Radio Network. We're going to take a quick break with our two phenomenal guests, Omer Ahmed Redi, who is based in Washington, D.C., and journalist Mohamed Elsetouhi, who is in the New York Bureau of Frontcom LLC. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Now getting your COVID-19 shot gives you a shot to win. Anyone in Michigan 18 and older vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. Get eligibility details and enter at mishottowin.com. Subject to sweepstakes rules. Scholarships available for ages 12 to 17.
Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on facebook.com/Arab News.
Welcome back to the Ray Hanania Radio Show here in Detroit on WNZK AM 690 Radio and Washington, D.C. on WDMV AM 700 Radio, broadcasting live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network at arabradio.us. and also on video and audio at facebook.com/Arab facebook.com/Arab News with the Arab News newspaper. My two guests on the line are Omer Ahmed Redi, who is based in Washington, D.C. He's with the Ethiopian Ifriqiyah Media and Communications Company, and Egyptian journalist and analyst Mohamed Elsetouhi, who is in New York. Omar, what did you think of the question I left before we took the break? Is this gonna, I mean, it's little things like this sometimes, and I know it's not a little topic, but to the rest of the world, it may seem little, but this could lead to war, couldn't it?
Thank you. Just to add a few points on what Mohammed has said, right there in his statement are some of the main problems with the Egyptian side. Mainly the attitude and sense of entitlement to dictate terms and what other, especially upstream countries, need to do or not need to do. For example, he said Ethiopia shouldn't have been allowed to start this project in the first place. That's exactly the problem. That's exactly what I was saying. The Egyptians have problem with their hegemony being threatened. He said shouldn't be allowed to start at all. Every Nile riparian country, upstream and downstream, has every right, equal right for any development project on the Nile Basin, as long as it is done in accordance with international norms and practices and laws. This is not the first or the only cross-boundary international river that countries argue about development about the development.
But weren't there some agreements already between Egypt and Ethiopia? And I think Egypt is arguing that Ethiopia violated those agreements. Did they violate any agreements that they had with Egypt?
As long as I'm concerned, as long as I understand, Ethiopia is still abiding by the DOP, the Declaration of Principles, which was signed in 2015, has some tenets. This is a document that dictates the principles of going about the negotiations and discussions regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Mohammed also mentioned the availability of other water resources in Ethiopia, which is partly true. There are other rivers in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia has done other projects. Ethiopia has done hydroelectric dams on the Tekeze River in the northern part of Ethiopia. There are two dams in southern parts of Ethiopia along the Omer River, and there are other dams. So Ethiopia uses its resources within its right, according its own plans and as it sees fit. What the question should be whether it is in accordance with international law and customs and principles, and whether it is violating the DOP. That should be the question. Now, coming back to your question, to your main question, for Ethiopia, it has always been a development issue. There are concerns downstream, so there is a natural tendency and importance to have a discussion. There is naturally misunderstanding on the needs of the different countries, but that should be addressed through negotiations and the discussions with the right body hosting the negotiations, that is the African Union.
Why not the United Nations?
Well, that undermines the authority of the African Union. All the riparian countries are the member states of the African Union. Only two of them are members of the Arab League. For example, it's just Sudan and Egypt that are members of the Arab League. Even the Arab League being involved on this matter is out of its scope.
So. Let me ask Mohammed to jump in here. And it sounds like what Omar is saying is that the water in Ethiopia is their right to do whatever they want, even if it does flow into other countries. But it seems like this project is, at least from the Egyptian side, correct, having a huge impact on the water flow. So it's directly impacting Egypt?
Not really whatever they want. What I said is it's in Ethiopia's rights to use whichever water resource for any development purpose as it sees fit, based on international principles and customs, without harming the downstream countries.
Okay, Mohamed?
You know, he said without harming the downstream countries. If the Ethiopians really realized this statement and behave accordingly, I don't think we would have a problem right now. The thing is that they are ignoring the rights. They are ignoring the possibility that they are really not just harming, they are killing, destroying a whole country in the process. And it is not something of their concern. The Ethiopians, unfortunately, behaved like that with Kenya, with Somalia before.
Mohammed, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you believe the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam would arrest the flow of the Nile water completely?
You know what? You don't have to control 100% of the water to be a threat. When you have 74 billion cubic meters in control, which is 1.5 the share of Egypt of the water, and then you allow yourself to behave unilaterally, without asking permission, without even coordinating, without even notifying. You are talking about Ethiopia behaving according to the international law. As an upstream country, international law would require Ethiopia to coordinate and reach an agreement with downstream countries before
Ethiopia is negotiating. Ethiopia is discussing, and on the amount of the water.
What kind of negotiations, Omer?
On the amount of Mohammed, on the amount of the water, let me tell you one thing. Ethiopia has done 2 rounds of filling, which is now about 20 billion cubic meter. First year about 4.5 or 5. Now it's about 13 or 15 billion cubic meter, which is about 20 billion cubic meter of water already is filled in the dam. The remaining amount is less than a third. I mean, about a third of the amount is already in the reservoir, and this hasn't caused any significant impact downstream. It is done during the main rainy season, the season of the Ethiopia. And the last 2 years, including this year, the rain has been very generous in Ethiopia. And this rain, the rain would have been wasted had it not been Ethiopians' persistence to go ahead and fill the dam. It has actually saved Egypt and Sudan from any harm coming due to the filling process of the dam, because Ethiopia has made sure this amount of water is filled during this generous rain season.
Listen,
yes.
You asked me a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Why do you have 74 billion cubic meters for the reservoir? If you really want it for development and electricity, why do you need that huge amount of water?
That's a very technical question, the details of which I cannot tell you everything because I'm not the expert on the technical and the engineering part of it. What I can tell you is this is a hydroelectric dam which Ethiopia is investing a lot of money on, about $5 billion. And if you don't have enough reservoir, enough water to generate power during dry seasons, you're going to affect downstream countries naturally. So this is actually a benefit to downstream countries. The fact that Ethiopia is having a huge reservoir at times of drought and shortage of water, Ethiopia can continue to generate power without, arresting the flow of the water. Once the dam is filled to its full capacity, be it in 5 years or 3, 5, 7 years, it will continue to flow naturally. That's the simple physics.
I'm not sure about this, and this is the problem, Omer. And
it's
you know
now
what?
Flowing. It's now flowing. Look, with the second filling of the dam, it's already flowing now. And this is 6,000
You didn't have an answer to my question about the new size of the reservoir.
This is
It's
a
not your
6,000
profession.
mega. No,
You are not an
6,000
engineer. Okay, I understand that.
6,000
You- as,
megawatts.
as,
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't have an answer, I'm asking you to go for professional Ethiopian engineers who understand in this. And I'm telling you now, there is no need for such a huge reservoir to have 74 billion cubic meters for just electricity. It is mainly built and designed for control and hegemony on the Nile. And this is the problem now. We are talking about Egypt's hegemony on over the Nile, the river. They want to control, blah, blah, blah. This is the other problem here, is that there is no need for Egypt to control. We just need our share of water and live together and be fine. The thing is that you go and build a huge dam to control the water coming and say, if we complain about it, it's a hegemony from the Egyptian side. No, get your own right for developed. Actually, Egypt offered Ethiopia to share with them building the dam, contributing, investing, coordinating, everything. But the Ethiopian side didn't want to.
Ethiopia is a sovereign country.
What?
Ethiopia is a sovereign country.
Nobody's questioning that, but for a sovereign country to control water going to other countries and killing them in the process, this is not about sovereignty. This is about aggression.
Omer, let me ask you, Omer.
Control any natural flow of the river, anyways, with a dam. You can't really control 100%. You can't really erase the flow of a dam.
You don't have to control 100% to threaten others, especially if the others rely 100% or 97% of their needs are rely mainly on the Nile. You can just stop 50% of it or 25% of it without agreement. And you know what is the problem with the Ethiopians and the negotiations? We are talking about negotiations. What kind of negotiations? We've been talking for 10 years, and the Ethiopian side doesn't want even to use the word agreement. Okay, let's call it guidelines. They don't want to put the word agreement. For why? Why is that? Simply because they don't want any binding legal document. So it's our it's our water. We can control it. If we give you something, it's our choice. If we stop it, it's our sovereignty. So this is how the Ethiopian approaches this issue, and this is the root of the problem.
The negotiations have been going on for years and years because the three countries couldn't agree on certain things, not just Ethiopia. Ethiopia has its demands, Egypt has its demands, Sudan has its demands. Now, the problem, as far as I understand, is mainly from Egyptian side, trying to make this a water sharing agreement. This is not a water sharing agreement. This is a negotiation or an agreement on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It's a water sharing agreement on the Nile is another thing on its own. It should be negotiated among the 11 riparian countries. So Ethiopia would not agree to a water sharing agreement under the cover of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That's true. That's what Ethiopia is trying to avoid. As long as it's about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and as long as it ascertains, as long as it respects its development needs, Ethiopia would agree. Why not?
Omer, let me ask you a question, and then we'll take a break, and I'll come back to Mohamed. But just really quickly, how would Ethiopia react? Would they be any different than Egypt if this were reversed? If the water were flowing from north to south, would they be upset if the Egyptians built a dam like this?
Like I said earlier, I would understand if Egyptians were to be concerned or to be unhappy about this development. It's a new mega project on the river that they have enjoyed without any concern to upstream countries. So if Ethiopia were a downstream country, I would say there could be this kind of unease, but if Ethiopia were a downstream country, Ethiopia should also understand the needs of Egypt upstream for development.
All right, let's take a quick break here at the Ray Hanania radio show on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, the greater Detroit region, Michigan, and Ohio, and also on WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. I'm Ray Hanania with our two guests. We're going to take a quick radio break, and when we come back, we'll go to Mohamed and go to that question. Is this going to lead to war? Is there a fear that that's where we're headed? I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Al-Majid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, poisi, grape leaves with steak, mashawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985. At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcast content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And now welcome back. We have two great guests who I think this discussion has really kind of opened up the issues a lot for both of us. Mohamed, before the break, I had asked if you felt that this issue that serious where it could lead to a military conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia. Is that where we're headed, do you think? Or is that too early?
Is it very serious? Yes, it is. Could it lead to a military conflict? It is certainly possible. And it's not because you know, when there is an existential threat to a country, you can expect anything to happen. When I said Ethiopia shouldn't have been allowed to start this kind of project, it wasn't because of I want Egypt to control and dominate and blah, blah, blah. Maybe Omer didn't get my point clearly. Ethiopia had the right, sovereign right, to start projects and to develop and have electricity and do everything they want and to use the Nile. But the kind of project, the mega project that they have, is not about development, it's not about electricity, it's about dominance and control. For Egypt to allow another country, even a friendly country, let alone people sometimes talk in Ethiopia in a very aggressive way about Egypt, but even a friendly country, you can't let others control your destiny the way it is right now with mega dam GERD. It's an existential threat for the Egyptians. This could lead to anything, including a military conflict. I personally don't want that. I wish we can avoid that. However, I can't rule it out. And for the Egyptians to use force to defend their very existence, I think it is their right.
Is there an ethnic or racial aspect to this that, between the Arab presence of North Africa versus the more African, Black African, members of Africa? Is there like a racial aspect between this? And how many countries, Mohamed, does Egypt have support from in their position with Ethiopia?
I personally hope it is not ethnic. I wrote many times criticizing Egypt and its policy that they should be more engaged with Africans and with Ethiopia and other countries in Africa. And I still think this is the case. They should do more to open up to Africans and have more trade and investment. And, unfortunately, this hasn't been the case for so long. And it's about time to change that. However, this shouldn't be related to what we're talking about now with regard to the dam. This is a problem that has to be dealt with. Ethiopia has to be more flexible to accept that there are rules. They have to be obligated with a binding legal agreement. So far, they don't accept this premise that it is our water, our river, we do whatever we want. So they don't want any agreement whatsoever. They don't want any binding legal issues. So if they insist in doing that, this certainly would lead us to a bigger conflict, which we all hope to avoid.
Omer, what do you think of the question that I asked earlier about could this lead, or is there a feeling that this might lead to war, or do you think that that's still an option that's way down the line? And is there a racial or ethnic aspect to this conflict?
Yeah, I would react to both questions. Thank you. First, on the prospect of water wars, I don't think that is possible. I don't think that is going to happen because I believe both countries understand that this is not the right response, the right approach to address the issue. And if that is picked up as an option, it's not going to end well to both countries. That said, I should also mention the effort by the Egyptian government to internationalize this issue, to turn it into a security matter, is partly associated with the internal politics in Egypt, where the administration of Al-Sisi has internal issues to divert. In the US, Washington has been helping Egypt because it's a major ally in the Middle East, and in return to its favor concerning the Middle East, the peace negotiations between Israel and Palestine, Washington has essentially offered Ethiopia as a sacrificial lamb. That's why the Washington negotiations failed. Now that the negotiations are back to the African Union, The only viable solution is to continue the negotiations and reach amicable an agreement that would address the needs of all sides. And that, I hope, is the solution. Otherwise, a war might be a very distant possibility, but it is a mutually destructive solution. On the racial element, yes and no. No, because there is Sudan in the downstream matrix, which is part Arab, part Black. But I agree with Mohammed that Cairo has made a disastrous mistake of imposing a self-isolating policy on itself against the rest of Africa. Throughout the Mubarak administration, Cairo has, for all practical purposes, left the African Union and the Africa Brotherhood, the Pan-African Brotherhood. It turned to the West and it turned to the East, to the Middle East, to the Arab countries. And even that attitude is affecting, that behavior is affecting it in the negotiations on the GERD, because it's going to the Arab League, which is wrong, like I said earlier. The only member countries to the Arab League along the Nile Basin are Egypt and Sudan, and the Arab League doesn't have any legitimacy over this issue. It's not its business. So the racial element has a part, but not a significant part. But it is in Egypt's interest to come back to Africa, and that starts with respecting the authority and mandate of the African Union and other Pan-African institutions. And this means stop taking this matter to the UN Security Council or any other foreign body other than the African Union.
Right, let me give Mohammed a minute there, because we are at the end of the show, and I'm going to tell you, I appreciate the insight from both of you. It's been very educational, and I hope I can bring both of you back again to talk this down the road as we see things progress. But Mohammed, I'll give you the final 1 minute before we sign off.
Thanks, Ray, and thanks, Omer, for this kind of, I really enjoyed the discussion, and I really hope we can reach a peaceful agreement, conclusion for this, because there are many possibilities for all the countries in the area, including Ethiopia and Egypt and Sudan. And let's not forget about Sudan, and who are talking about. It's not a mutual issue between Egypt and Ethiopia. Also, Sudan is part of the tripartite negotiations, and they also have their own interests in the process. I think it is possible to reach a peaceful conclusion. My only problem is the Ethiopian intransigence. They have a problem with their attitude approaching the issue. This is our river, this is our Nile. It is not your Nile, it is not your river. It is for everybody benefiting from it. Let's go for to share the benefit, to share the burden. If you take
I have to interrupt you, Mohammed, only because the radio is going to cut us all off. But I want to thank Omer Ahmed Redi and Mohamed Elsetouhi. And again, I want to bring you guys back on a future show. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you, Ray.
I'm Ray Hanania signing off, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good day.